Okay, well then, you're the guy that, well, are you gonna be up here? Just start. Start. You just start. Now we're going to be moving over to station track number 2 for the this portion of the parade. So if you want to get yourself positioned for the switchers, the larger switchers, and filling into position now. The 14 is a commonly known as a switcher. This is an S3 type switcher. It was built by the American Locomotive Company, commonly called ALCO, in Schenectady, New York. This engine has a 539 prime mover for all you people who are aficionados. This was the earliest type of prime mover that ALCO had in their first diesel locomotives. The engineer on the 14 is Warren Roy. Warren's one of the fellows who has been looking out for this engine. And Warren, give us a little toot on the horn there and passing review. Into position in the reviewing area now is the Commonwealth Edison 50. The 15 was built in 1951 right here in LaGrange, Illinois by the Electromotive Division, at that time a division of General Motors. And if you've been following the news today, the Electromotive Division has been resold and the current owner is Caterpillar Tractor Company. Caterpillar, obviously an Illinois corporation from Peoria, Illinois. This locomotive worked at various Commonwealth Edison power plants. These were coal-fired generating stations, and it was last used at the Byron Nuclear Station out in Byron, Illinois, for the construction of that station. This engine is very distinctive in that it has what's called an industrial cab, and you'll notice that it has a clear story above it, and then obviously the slope of the roof. This was done for the loading docks that had extended canopies over the loading docks. The engineer on the Comet 15 today is Jeff Delahaye, and Jeff, give us a toot on the horn and passing review. The 760 is a very distinctive locomotive in that it was called a demonstrator type locomotive. This locomotive was built by the Fairbanks Morse Company of Beloit, Wisconsin in 1944. It was the first diesel locomotive built at the Beloit plant, and as such was sent around to the various railroads to try it out. Folks, just like you go to the auto dealer and take a car out, a demonstrator, the locomotive builders used to do that also to try to get the different railroads to buy their products. So this locomotive was a demonstrator type locomotive. Very distinctive, and there are several of them in today's parade. It's classified as an H1044. It was 1,000 horsepower. It had been upgraded to 1,200 horsepower. And it worked many years on the Milwaukee Road. The Milwaukee Road bought it after the demonstration tour, and worked many years on the Milwaukee Road until it was acquired by the Illinois Railway Museum. The engineer on the 760 today is Brian Swan. So Brian, give us a blast on the horn and pass in review. The Illinois Terminal 1605. Is a distinctive locomotive for the museum because it was one that was purchased by the Illinois Terminal Railroad Company. The Illinois Terminal Railroad Company was an interurban operator, an electric railroad, but they had a division down in the St. Louis, Belleville, Alton area that was their steam division. So this company had steam locomotives, and they were then replaced by diesels when they came out. The 1605 was built in 1953 right here in LaGrange, Illinois by the Electromotive Division of General Motors. It's classified as a GP7, GP meaning general purpose, and it was a freight locomotive on the Illinois Terminal. The Illinois Terminal was taken over, was owned by 12 different railroads. Eventually, it became owned by 4, and then eventually the Norfolk and Western gained complete control over the Illinois Terminal. And as such, they used this locomotive for several years, and then it was donated to the museum by the Norfolk and Western Railroad. The engineer on the 1605 today is Ben Teeters, and Ben's come in from Washington State to be here in the parade. So Ben, give us a little blast on the horn and pass in review. A little bit of horn talk there by Ben for all you sound recorders. Pulling into the reviewing area now is BN1 and 2. BN1 and 2 are very distinctive locomotives. They were built in 1956, the BN1, and 1954 by the Electromotive Division of General Motors. What makes them distinctive is that these locomotives were rebuilt in 1990 at the West Burlington shops of the Burlington Northern Railroad. And they were built for the executive train service. As such, they were modified on the inside. They had all modern prime movers and electrical controls installed in these locomotives. They are both considered F units, F9A and an F9B. The B is the second one there, and that means that it does not have a control cab to it. The engineer on the 1 and 2 is Roger Bronze. Roger is one of the longtime members of the diesel department. And so kids, cover your ears because these are pretty loud horns. So Roger, give us a blast on the horn and pass in review.